Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Residents of Agility in Lagos count their losses following a day of violence. Security operatives mount surveillance in the community. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo identifies injustice as a root cause of global insecurity, urges action by leaders to address the challenge. Federal High Court rejects application by former Defense Chief, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, seeking the enforcement of his fundamental rights to liberty. And leaders of Russia, Germany and France and Italy and the UK hold talks to boost truce broadly holding in Syria. I do remember you can read up more on our top stories. You'll find them on our websites, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You can also visit m.channelstv.com to view us live on a mobile device and download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. And we do encourage you to please interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app. Now, if you have pictures or videos you'd like to share with us, tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu, and follow the instructions.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
And we have these pictures that you sent in to our Eyewitness portal. Let's begin with this one from Akure Owo Expressway in Ondo State, showing the scene of an accident which our Eyewitness reporter describes as fatal. Next is this photo from Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. It shows students of a polytechnic in a rush for what our Eyewitness reporter calls the economy shuttle. This photo was sent in from Ajao Estate in Lagos. It shows a queue of vehicles, our Eyewitness reporter says, are waiting to buy fuel. Our next photo was sent in from Isialangwa North local government area of Abia State. It shows this dilapidated classroom. Our Eyewitness reporter calls on the state government to renovate the premises. Finally, it's this picture from Timber Street in Mautu, Diobu area in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. It shows the extent of pollution down to this environment. Our Eyewitness reporter wants regulatory agencies to intensify awareness in all local councils.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
And we do sincerely apologize for the loss of audio earlier in the bulletin. Now, former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has challenged world leaders to adopt measures aimed at defeating global terror. Chief Obasanjo says more should be done to promote justice and fairness across the world. He made the call in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, at the 4th International Colloquium, marking his 79th birthday. It was organized by the Center for Human Security and entitled Violent Extremism and Radicalization in Nigeria.
We have been refugees since 1948. And the international community has not been able to find solution. So when you talk of radicalization, what do you want the children of people like that? How do they believe that they can get what is right for them in today's world? How do you prevent them from saying, look, if we cannot get it, then let's die for it?
Chief Olusegun Obasanjo in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. The Kogi State Governorship Election Tribunal, sitting in Abuja, has agreed to accept forensic reports as part of evidence to be tendered by the petitioner during the proceedings. Ruling on an earlier motion filed by the petitioner, former Governor of Kogi State, Captain Idris Wada, Justice Halima Mohammed said the court will accept forensic experts as witnesses and their reports as evidence. The court also advised all parties in the case to streamline their witnesses to enable them to give judgments within the expected time frame. The court adjourned to March 15th to rule on other pre-hearing matters.
The court is filled to capacity as both lawyers and supporters wait for the tribunal chairman to rule on the preliminary objections and motions filed by the petitioner and respondents. When the time came, Justice Halima Mohammed granted the request of Captain Idris Wada, the petitioner, who asked the court to accept forensic reports as part of the evidence he will tender. Lead counsel to the petitioner says the decision of the court is important to proving his case.
The preliminary objections, they've all been taken and stood down. And most importantly for us, the motion we brought for the tendering of the expert report and then calling the evidence of our forensic experts who went physically to inspect all the INEC documents, and we have prepared the reports showing all the discrepancies. The Honorable Tribunal has granted us leave to call that witness and leave also to use that report. So we are very happy that ruling was delivered in our favor.
Having ruled on all preliminary objections, the petitioner further proposed to the court that all certified documents from INEC be allowed to be tendered by consent during the proceedings. But counsel to INEC insists that such documents should be verified before they are accepted by the court.
No, our position is that we said if there are documents coming and you claim to be from INEC, we have to be sure that they are documents from INEC. We have to scrutinize them well before we say yes, this is our document. Otherwise, we will not just consent that this is document because it has a stamp of INEC. Anybody can have that stamp. So that's what we were saying. But when we get there, we also that does not mean that even if it's from INEC, we don't have any legal position to take on that document, even if they are in. That's what we told the tribunal.
Counsel to the first respondent, the governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yahaya Bello, also maintained that tendering of documents should be based on what the law says and not the views of the parties.
We said that normally documents are tendered by consent, and if anybody has objection, he would raise. So that's, but we will wait until the court rules on which way. But admissibility of documents is based on what the law says, whether a document can be admitted or not by whether parties like it or not.
The court has adjourned to March the 15th to rule on other preliminary issues, including durations for cross-examination of witnesses and whether all certified documents from INEC should be tendered by consent.
Staying with legal matters, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has convicted one South African woman, Ngula Nosisi Pam, for money laundering and bulk cash smuggling. The convict was arraigned by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on February 1st, 2016, after her arrest at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. The South African had earlier pleaded not guilty, but changed her plea to guilty and was consequently convicted by the court. Justice Cecilia Olaturegun ordered that the convict forfeit the entire sum of $374,355 to the federal government of Nigeria. The judge also ordered the EFCC to remit the money to the federal government accounts within 29 days and file notice of remittance at the court. And it's time now to go to Abuja, where Linda Akigbe is standing by with more on the news at 10. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi, and welcome to the nation's capital. The Joint Committee of the National Assembly on Appropriation says the National Assembly has not discarded the proposed 500 billion naira for social welfare in the 2016 budget. In a statement jointly signed by the chairman of the appropriation committees of the two chambers, Senator Danju Magoje and Representatives Abdulmumin Jibrin, the lawmakers say they had only made observations on the proposal during their meeting with the Ministers of Finance, Budget and National Planning during the meeting on the 2016 budget. The lawmakers say they had expressed concern over reports indicating that the government is yet to put in place adequate preparations for the welfare program and suggested to the executive that the money proposed in the 2016 budget be invested in some critical sectors while adequate preparations are made for its full takeoff in 2017. They say they are waiting for the response of the executive on their suggestion. For 3 weeks, the National Assembly has been meeting with parastatals, ministries and agencies of government on the 2016 budget. And the reason is to reconcile figures from the MDAs to ensure that the budget presented by the President is intact. But presently, the Senate and the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation are looking at the figures separately before eventually both committees would sit together to harmonize the figures. How has the exercise been since 3 weeks when the National Assembly began deliberations on Budget 2016? What has been the findings so far? And when should Nigerians expect the passage of the 2016 budget? Now joining me on the news at 10 is the Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Abdullahi Sabi. Senator Sabi, thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you, Linda, and good evening, viewers.
Now, 3 or more weeks have gone since the National Assembly began the process of working on the 2016 budget. Tell us, where are we now? Where's the National Assembly now on Budget 2016?
Well, I think, thank you very much. The National Assembly has been working very hard over the past couple of weeks. And I would like to tell you that substantial progress has been made, to the effect that the Appropriation Committee has finished receiving all reports from the subcommittees. You know, in the process of budgeting, the Appropriation Committee is the main committee, and all other committees of the National Assembly are subcommittees of the Appropriation Committee. And for the Senate and Pt.2 for the House of Reps, all committees or subcommittees in this case have submitted their reports to the Appropriation Committee. And it's on this note that the Appropriation Committee had a joint sitting yesterday where it invited the Minister of Budget and Planning and the Minister of Finance, CBN and the Accountant General and the DG Budget Office all in attendance. And practically going forward, this means that the Appropriation Committee is now set to begin its own internal process of harmonizing between the two appropriation committees, that is for the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, okay. So I think basically this is where we are now, and the exercise continues next week.
Now, the National Assembly had come out to say that the budget would be concluded and passed on March 17th. Is this feasible?
Yes, you see, from beginning, the National Assembly is very, very aware that Nigerians are eager for this budget to be passed. And so we set a timeline for ourselves so that we can work very hard to achieve this timeline. The first one we set, of course, we came out to say, well, due to all the problems that the budget has prop up, we couldn't really tackle all those things within that time frame. Now, the 17th of March that we set up, I think is a date that we believe is feasible. And I want to assure you that in the course of the past couple of days or weeks, the two committees, the various committees from both the Senate and then the House of Reps, usually after they finish their assembly, try to have joint sittings to harmonize. So most of the reports that came to Appropriation Committee are harmonized. And so within the context of harmonizing the budget, I think almost all the committees have harmonized their reports and they have submitted same to appropriation. So the Appropriation Committee is now in the process of harmonizing the entire budget between two committees.
But with the problems,
that explains why this interactive session
of yesterday
was the first step, and then next week the process continues.
Now, how, when the budget was brought, you said the 2016 budget is actually, one would say it's been a contentious budget since it was brought. There's been issues with it. Now, when the MDAs came to, for their budget defense sessions, we saw issues with the budget. We even saw the minister coming out to sort of say, this is not the budget, that was presented to us. How has the National Assembly been able to reconcile these problems?
Well, I want to tell you that because of the sensitivity the National Assembly has given to the issue of the budget, all the committees have worked very closely with the executive, the MDAs in particular, and the ministers. And I want to tell you that all the contentious areas have been resolved, and that is why the committees are able to submit an agreeable report to the Appropriation Committee. Now, yesterday, if you recall, the aspects that were being discussed, which I think even in your opening you did mention the aspect of the social welfare, for example, and those other little areas that we believe we needed to bring to the attention of that level of executive were all discussed yesterday. And the essence is for us to set the ground norm for the work of the two appropriation committees going forward. So I want to assure Nigerians that we are on course on this, and we are very sensitive to the fact that the policy trust Mr. President has enunciated in his budget speech are very clear: diversification, employment, social intervention, and all of these things. These are various lens with which the National Assembly looked into the budget and engaged the NGOs.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Sabi, for joining us on the news at 10. Sitting in Abuja has refused an application by the former National Security Advisor, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, seeking to quash the charges against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for disobeying an earlier court order. The presiding judge, Justice Pt.2, held that contrary to the application by Colonel Dasuki, the DSS arrested Colonel Dasuki and not the EFCC. Justice Afem agreed that with the anti-graft agency that he has not flouted any part of the order to release the former NSA on bail. Justice Afem also held that even though the EFCC and the DSS are agencies of the federal government, the action of one agency cannot count for that of the other. The Federal High Court in Abuja has turned down the application filed by the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, retired Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, seeking enforcement of his fundamental rights to liberty pending when the anti-graft agency is ready to charge him to court. The presiding judge, Justice James Soho, said that there is a subsisting withholding charge order by a magistrate in Lagos, which gives the anti-graft agency the right to detain the former defense chief. Justice Soho also held that he cannot vacate the said order because Air Chief Bade did not ask for it in his application. The former Chief of Defense Staff had approached the court seeking for his release, saying the EFCC has held him longer than the constitutionally stipulated time for detention without trial. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Linda, for joining us from Abuja. And when the news at 10 returns, CBN plans to establish e-fraud units with the Nigerian police force to combat security threats of bank accounts. We'll have more business news. Please